This is a sheet cake. Well, actually, this is a full sheet cake and this is a half sheet cake. If you're new to using ready-baked cakes, it can be a bit confusing with rounds and squares and sheets, but I'm going to explain a bit more today about how to use sheet cakes and how they can increase the profit margins in your business. Sweet Success sheet cakes come in two different sizes. We have a 30-inch by 18-inch, and then we've got a 17-inch by 14-inch. We call them full sheets and half sheets, and literally this one is half the size of the larger one. We sell them this way because some customers have trouble handling the bigger cakes, so we do it in a half sheet size. These are great for getting 14-inch round or square tiers from, so good when you need a slightly larger tier for a wedding cake or a celebration cake. I'm going to show you how to use the half sheet cake today, and then we'll unwrap the larger one so you can see what it looks like. So let's get started. Sweet Success sheet cakes come in 8 different flavours, including 2 vegan options. I'm going to use the vanilla sponge today. We call it vanilla Genoese or vanilla sponge cake. We use the term interchangeably. This is by far our best seller, and it's the easiest cake to use. Our sheet cakes have a 4 to 5 week shelf life and can also be frozen to extend the shelf life by a further 3 months when wrapped correctly in store. Once decorated, our cakes have a 1 week shelf life, meaning if you cut them into portions and put some buttercream on them, you have approximately 7 days shelf life on them. The sheet cakes are perfect for things like cake sheds, cafes, because of that 1 week shelf life once they're decorated. So let's take a look at the half sheet cake. As I said, this is 17 inches by 14 inches. This comes with 2 layers of sponge in the box, separated with a greaseproof layer. And I'm going to show you just how easy it is to use it. That's the cake on the inside. You can see it's got the baking paper still attached. And there are the 2 layers. Now, each layer of sponge is approximately 1.25 inches. They tend to be about more like 1.5 inches, but that's our minimum measurement. So you get 2 layers in the box. You can see how robust the sponge is. I'm just lifting it and it's not breaking. The great thing about these cakes is how easy they are to handle and how easily they can be portioned. And so they can be portioned just with a normal knife. Now, just bear in mind, you have got the layer of greaseproof paper between the other layers, but you can just cut them with a knife. You could just cut the slices that you need and transfer them and then rewrap and put this back. So if it's a cafe and you want to serve smaller portions, you can cut from this, or you can pre-portion them and put them in the freezer. They only take a couple of hours to defrost and then use them as you need them. So I'm just going to show you here using the paper in between. So I've got my hands on 1 layer. And this is how easy this is to use. I'm going to use 2 hands here, and that's 1 layer of sponge. And you can see the depth. It's covered in greaseproof paper, really easy to use. I like to keep the baking paper on there until I'm going to actually cut into the cake. So we're going to remove that. And we'll just very slowly peel back. And we'll take a look at the sponge. There you go. It's still got the layer of paper at the bottom. And that is the cake. So how do we cut out the cakes from our sponge? Well, you have a few options here. You can use single thick cake cards, and what you would do is get a short, sharp knife like this, place it on your cake, and remember, you're not pushing down through both the layers, you're pushing 1 layer at a time, and then you would just trace around there, try and hold it nice and straight, and then once you've cut your shape, you can just lift it up. Or you can also use ganaching plates, and then they're reusable, or what's even easier are these amazing cake rings. And we sell these at Sweet Success now, and all you have to do is put them on the sponge, cut them out. I'm just going to cut that one now. Give it a bit of a twist. And then we push on the bottom. And there's your piece of cake. So easy. So as you can see, for the 4-inch size, you can actually get quite a few of those out of here. Or if you wanted, you could actually use your sponge. Play with your shapes a little bit, because sometimes depending on the cake sizes and shapes, you could easily get another couple of 6s here, maybe another 4 here. So you can see from the sponge, it can go quite a long way. So now I'm going to cut out a slightly bigger one. This is the 8-inch, and it's the same idea here. We'll just push that down, give it a bit of a twist, lift your cake ring off. Put your hand under the paper, lift out your sponge, and look how easily that just comes away. And then just put your hand under there. Oh, bit of a crumb from the edge. And you can see, really easy to handle. Then you can pop it on your cake board. I would just do this. And then put your filling on your sponge here, add another layer. And you can keep stacking the layers. I think the most I would probably stack one of our cakes would be 4 or 5 layers high, depending on the fillings you're putting in there. But that's just how simple it is. And so if you can imagine, what a lot of our trade customers might do is they might get all their cakes delivered one day, have their orders written out for the week, and just stand and cut all the shapes out and then wrap them and put them in the freezer, and then they can pull them out as they need them. All of our cakes come with a batch code and a shelf life date on it, which you can keep for your records. If you don't have a cake ring, the other way you can do it is, as I said, using a cake card. So I'm just going to move these out of the way and show you. We've got our 4-inch there. I'm going to pull it away from the side a little bit just to give you a better view. And look how easy this is. It just cuts right around. Just make sure that's all sorted. And again, I'm going to put our hand under and pop that one out. And there you go. And there's the 4-inch size. Perfect. So another great way of using this cake is for traditional school cakes. They are the cake flavour of the moment, and these are perfect. And so what I would do if I was doing school cake, especially for a cafe or anywhere that's serving by the portions, I would just take the edge off the sheet. I'm using a long, sharp, thin knife, and then I would cut the portions. My portions are always a little bit bigger. So we're just going to cut down there, cut a nice strip. And then what you can do, we'll use the smaller knife. We'll just cut the portion and pull it back. You can see you've got a lovely little piece of sponge there. It's a very nice depth, perfect for school cakes. You don't really want to go too deep. If you were doing gâteau style cakes or something with a filling, you might want to go 2 layers deep, because once you put the frosting on top, you've got a cake about 4 inches, which is typical, I think. Another way you can do school cake is, if you've got a piece of sponge this size, transfer it, and then I would pour the icing all over the cake, let it set for a couple of hours, and then you can portion the cake, because you'll still be able to cut it exactly like that. Another way of using the sheets, if you're doing flavours on a larger basis, is actually to decorate them while they're still in the box. So instead of portioning it, I would add my frosting or my fondant icing or whatever kind of topping you want to, and then I would leave it for a little while to set off slightly, especially if you're making something like a school cake. You want that icing to just crust over, and then I would portion it. And it's just as easy to cut when it's portioned, and then you can lift one piece at a time as a serving, and it just means you're not making the whole cake. You're just taking out the pieces that you want, because you're not leaving an exposed edge. Depending on how many portions, a half sheet will create approximately 120 2-inch by 1-inch dessert portions. So that's not a wedge of cake, that's the rectangle piece of cake that we recommend as a cake portion guide. If you were going to make something like a school cake, obviously it depends on the size, but you can see here from the strip I've cut, I could easily get probably about 6 portions out of the strips, and I could get about 6 strips. So that's about 36 portions. And as I said, that's quite generous. You could probably get a little bit more. Our sheet cakes tend to be really popular with trade customers or customers running cafes or anyone who does large scale events. These are so much more economical than buying them pre-cut round and square. So I would always advise a customer who is looking at increasing their profit margin to look at a sheet cake. They can seem a little bit daunting, but they're so easy to use. And as you can see from the pieces I've cut here, you will get some leftovers. But with things like cake cups, cake pops, all of these crumbs can be used again afterwards, meaning you've got no wastage.